everyone. Welcome to my show, Autumn is Here. I'm your host, Francine Crawford, and today we have a caregiver, and I love talking to caregivers. Today we have Lynnee Porter. She's here to share her story. Welcome her to the show. Welcome, Lynnee.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being here to share some of your stories. Everybody's caregiver journey is different. So it's nice to hear different people's stories so other people can relate to it. And maybe there's something that you said that may encourage somebody or inspire somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But first, tell me a little bit about yourself.
About me, okay. Well, I used to work at Lynnee Hospital. I haven't been there now. It's been about 15 years I've left there. But I worked at marketing in the public relations departments there, psychiatry, for about 20 years. In 2009, I was hit by a car, and I went out on disability.
Okay.
So I've been out of working out for like 15 years.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Which allowed me to take care of my parents as a caregiver.
Oh.
I look at that as a blessing in disguise.
To see how things happen, yeah.
It's how things happen. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's get started with you being a caregiver. Like, how did that come about?
Well, as I said, I was struck by a car, and I had a fractured hip, torn meniscus, and a torn rotator cuff. And I was non-weight bearing for 3 months, so I couldn't climb my 4 flights of stairs. So I had to stay at my parents' house, which they live in the brownstone on the first floor. So for 3 months, I stayed there with them. And while I was there, my mother started noticing she was repeating things. Mm-hmm. And my father got sick while I was there. And we had to rush him to the hospital. So now I'm running around the hospital in a wheelchair. They're pushing me in a wheelchair and I'm on crutches trying to find out what's going on with him. But that's how it all started. Mm-hmm. With staying there and noticing that something was wrong. And I guess like a few months later, my mother, she was always on point with her doctor's appointments and her medicine and everything. Mm-hmm. And one day her doctor called and said, "Your mother missed her appointment. That's not like her. I need to have her tested for a mild cognitive disorder." And sure enough, she was diagnosed with mild cognitive disorder.
Okay. That's interesting. Because sometimes doctors do not say that. They do not with that, you know what I'm saying? So it's good that the doctor mentioned.
She was I don't remember her name. She was a young African-American doctor, internal medicine. And she was very caring.
Was she in the neighborhood or did you go far?
Yeah, she was in the neighborhood because mommy lived on Willoughby, and this doctor was on DeKalb, in the Ryerson co-ops.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow. So they tested her. Do you know what the test was? Do you know what kind of things they did for the test?
I know we saw what was he? He was a psychologist, I believe it was. I forgot what his specialty was. But we took her to him and he just asked her a lot of questions, barrier questions. And that's how he determined that something was going on. So they put her on Namenda and the Exelon patch. And again, every day, she's taking her medicine. She did well for 10 years. No problems. No one would ever know my mother had dementia.
So when you said she did well, because I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but when you said she did well, because you first said that you noticed that she kept repeating herself and stuff like that. So when you said she did well, did she did it just the progress stop, or did she stop repeating herself all the time? That she was able?
She wasn't repeating herself anymore.
She wasn't repeating herself.
She wasn't repeating herself anymore, and the progression, I believe, stopped. I believe it stopped. That's why I tell people you need to, take them to the doctor and put them on some sort of medication, because I believe that that's what helped her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because my mother loved to get around. My mother was still going out in the street, going downtown Brooklyn, going to the grocery stores, because that's what she loved to do. She loved to walk.
Mm-hmm.
And so she did well with it. She did well on the medication.
Mm-hmm. So, and after the 10 years, you started noticing what?
This was fast. Mommy turned 95 in 2019.
Mhm.
And again, she was well, but then a few months later, she started, seemed like she started slowing down. Now she didn't want to go anywhere. She was staying in the bed. She just didn't care about anything. You know, I would come to the house and she would answer the door for Meals on Wheels.
Okay.
And I would come to one day I came to the house and the packages of food were all in the hallway floor and she was in the bed. I'm like, well, what happened? You know, and she didn't remember. She didn't know what happened or anything. But things just began to happen. She just didn't want to do anything, which is so unlike her. You know, let's go out to eat. I don't want to go. And she loved to go out to eat. She loved to go on vacation. But she just stopped. She just stopped. And actually one day, I guess when she was 100% herself, she looks at me and she says, you know, I feel myself going down. I said, really? And she said, mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, nah, but you're okay. In denial. I don't want to hear it. You know, we don't want to hear those things.
Right. Yeah.
But so she was right.
Okay.
Right.
She felt it. She felt it.
She felt it.
Wow.
But, yeah.
Were you, prior to this, were you prepared as far as, did you know a lot about your mom's business? Did you know if she had, were you the healthcare proxy? Did you know if she had will? Did you know if she had her checkups regularly and stuff? Did you know all that?
Yeah. My dad, we all set that in place after my brother passed.
Mm-hmm.
The house was put into a trust, the healthcare proxies, the living wills, all of that was done. My name was on all the bank accounts. So I had no problems once, you know, anything happened. Plus everybody in the bank, they knew me because I was always going to the bank for everybody. You know, for me, for my parents, you know, and then I think my Karen probably had an account at that time too. But yeah, I had no problems with any of that. Everything was set in place.
Okay, good. Because many people don't have all those things set in place. That's the problem. Yeah.
I gotta get mine in order.
Yes, right. The caregiver has to get there in some order.
Right.
Yeah. So you spoke about your dad. So at first he had gotten ill. Did you come in to help him at all?
Yeah, I helped him. From that point, he allowed me to go to doctor's appointments with him.
Okay.
And my dad and we became very close after that, you know. Then he started telling me things about the house, and that's how I got onto his account, all of that stuff. After that happened, we became close. We would go after the doctor's appointments. We go to Mike's across the street from the doctor's office because he told me they had the best grits. So, we went there. You know, every time after the doctor's appointment. But yeah, I took care of him. He didn't know he was on my mother's insurance, health insurance. I told him you are, because he was paying a crazy amount of money for all the medications he was on.
Wow.
And one day I finally said, listen, let's go down to Duane Reade, downtown Brooklyn. And I gave them the card, and they actually gave me a refund on the last batch of medicines that he picked up. They gave a refund. And after that, he didn't have to pay all that money he was paying on it. And whenever we go to the hospitals or the doctors, everybody had my mother's insurance because she worked in the Board of Ed. So they have decent insurance. So it worked out. You know, I helped him out a lot with that.
See, and that's something that, you know, if we don't know our parents' business, that, you know, we don't know that all the coverage that they could have, and they could be missing stuff.
They could be missing things. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
True.
So what are the things that you think that was unexpected for you? Like you know, becoming a caregiver, it comes in unexpectedly, but like as you're going through it, what are things that you might have learned or you might have wished you knew that you didn't know, maybe with your dad, now you know with your mom because you already went through it with your dad, or stuff like that. What are the things that you were now aware of?
That I didn't know before?
that you may have not knew before, maybe how much it took to actually do this, or much information that you needed to deal with doctors and whatever you had to deal with, maybe social workers, things like that.
Yeah, I had kind of a basic idea
Mm-hmm.
before all of this happened
Mhm.
because they both went to the same doctor. It was the practice. It was that practice down there on DeKalb and St. James.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they went. So I had sort of an idea already on the healthcare part of it. And the banking, like I said, my mother had always had me on her accounts, but my dad added me
Mm-hmm.
on things about the house I did not know. He started showing me things around the house that I didn't know because they owned the brownstone. Like going down in the basement, showing me where do you cut the water off, and like where the circuit breakers are, and about the furnace, things like that down in the basement, trying to teach me about things in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of things that, some things that I did learn.
Did you ever feel overwhelmed?
I don't think so. I don't know. I kind of
You had support? Did you have other support?
not much. Because my brother passed away before my parents did. So I didn't have him.
So you were the primary caregiver.
And was the primary. Karen lived upstairs. My daughter, Karen, lives upstairs from my mom, but she traveled all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But there were times when I could call her and say, could you go check and make sure that things were right? But once my dad died, let's say this, when my dad was living, I would go to the house maybe 2-3 times a week just to check on them. Sometimes even after church or during the week, maybe go 2 times. Then when my dad passed, now I got to go every day because I got to make sure she's okay. I got to make sure that she's not trying to cook because then she started burning pots. Yeah. So every day it was hard, but you do it in love. And then I thought about, well, my mother took care of me. It's the least I could do.
Right.
Was take care of her. So it was an honor. I felt like it was an honor to be able to take care of my parents.
Okay.
So I really didn't feel too much stress. I guess towards the end, it was a lot because she got sick. Let's see. Let me go. It was Christmas. She always came to the house for Christmas. And she would always climb my stairs, my 4 flights of stairs. But that last Christmas, we got a wheelchair, and Michael had somebody help him bring her upstairs.
Okay.
And usually after a couple of days, she's saying, okay, I guess I got to go back home. But this time I said, you know what, Mommy, I guess a couple of days later, I said, I guess I'm going to take you home tomorrow. She looked at me. She said, what if I don't want to go? That was a shock.
Wow. Okay.
Like I said, it was a change. She didn't want to do anything anymore. She was laying around. I had to make her come out the bedroom. It was just really hard. And after she was here a couple of days, all of a sudden these lumps started popping up on her. Now we know what it was. She had anaplastic thyroid cancer. So I guess that's probably what was going on in her body that caused her to lose the drive to want to do anything.
Yeah.
Right. So she stayed here in my house. Now I can't get her up and down the stairs. So I'm trying to call and get a doctor to come and visit. And that was the hardest thing to do. And I have to say, this was the beginning of COVID, before we really knew what was going on. I finally got a doctor here, and he told me I had to send her to the emergency room.
Yeah.
Like that was my most challenging time then. Had to deal with that, And then she couldn't walk when she came out. She walked in the hospital, and she couldn't walk out. That was hard because if you're not using those legs, you lose muscle.
Yeah.
And so they brought her up here, and now she can't even walk out the room. And I remember in the bathroom with her, and we got her to the bathroom, and then I remember we fell down together. We fell down together in the bathroom. I was like, oh my God, I was like, what the hell am I doing? That was, I guess, that was a stressful time.
Yeah.
That was stressful. I never thought of it like that, but yeah.
Did you ever use any outside services at all?
Yeah, when she was here with me
Okay.
at my house.
You were able.
Yeah. The outside services I used at her house was just the Meals on Wheels.
Right. Right.
And even then, I had to go over there and make her eat it. I would take it out, cook things, and put them in plates. And sometimes I would cook something on the side and mix stuff up,
Yeah.
so that she had a little bit of home cooked and a little bit of the Meals on Wheels, to make her feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I guess when she was here, I was able to get help for about 3-4 hours a day
Okay.
for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that person. They would sit with her so I could kind of just do some things myself around the house. Um, or sometimes I would send them to the laundry to do the sheets and things.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course now she's in the bed, she's not can function.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn how to change sheets and change her in the bed with her in it.
Right.
Thank God I had a friend who studied as a nurse. She came over and she showed me how to flip her and how to turn and how to pull her up in the bed. And I had to learn how to do all of these things.
Right. Wow.
Never thought, about having to do anything like that, let alone my mother oh God, the worst thing I think was the first time I had to change the diaper. That's my mom. You don't normally, that was horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was hard. I mean, it got easier, but it was just such a weird feeling,
Yeah. Yeah.
do that. But we do what we got to do.
Do what you got to do. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Wow. So how did you, like, at what point, once, you took care of your dad and you took care of your mom. So there was a lot of your time and your attention on someone else.
Mhm.
What happens and what was the feeling after your dad had passed and she had passed? Like, how did you get back to Lynnee? How did you get back to did you even remember what your schedule was or what you used to do? How was that feeling?
It's so funny that you asked me that. I guess about 2 months after she died, I remember waking up one morning and said to myself, "Who are you? Where's Lynnee?" I just didn't remember. I don't know. I just woke up and felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've got to find me again. What I don't. It took a minute, but yeah, I had to find me again.
Yeah.
It's like now I don't have to run back and forth anymore. I don't have to. Um, and I tell people it was kind of a relief
Mm-hmm.
when she passed.
Mm-hmm.
Sad.
Right.
I didn't want her to go,
Mm-hmm.
but it was kind of a relief because now she's not suffering anymore.
Yeah.
And now I can breathe.
Right.
And don't feel bad about feeling like that. Because I said a lot of people feel like that they might not tell you.
Right. Yeah.
But it's the honest to goodness truth that you feel a relief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot. You sometimes you don't realize what you're going through and what you're feeling inside emotionally while you're watching them deteriorate, while you're trying to do everything and help them and maybe keep part of your life going, or while you just totally focus on them. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of things you're watching, you're going through, and then they're gone. It's like there's something that, like, oh my God, like it's leaving you, like,
Right.
you can breathe and think, but sometimes you don't even realize that, like, okay, what do I do now? I remember I kept feeling I had to be somewhere. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have to be somewhere. I have to do something, yeah. So those are normal feelings. Those are normal feelings. Yeah.
Yeah. She warned me. She told me she was going.
She did.
She did. It was one morning I got up and I got the pan and everything. I went in there and I washed her up and I washed her hair and put it back in a ponytail. I remember she looked so pretty that when I said, "Let me take a picture of you." So I took a picture and she gave me kind of a half smile, but and she looks at me and she says, "I'm going." And I'm like, where you going? You know, they see, there we go. And she says, I'm going. I says, yeah, we're going on vacation next year. I had put deposit down on a cruise. So I said, here we go. I says, next year we're going to go to Europe. So we're going to go on another cruise. And she just looked at me and she just went, just like that.
Right.
Didn't say anything else, but I knew what she meant. And I left her,
That's tough.
and my husband was working home. Michael was working up in the living room at the time. And I remember I sat down and I sat in a chair. And I said, she just said that she's going. And I felt it. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe she just said that to me. But and he asked me how I felt about it. And just like I said to you, I don't want her suffering. I want her here for me.
Selfishly.
Yeah, selfishly, but I don't want to be selfish. You know, I don't want her suffering. So I had to come to grips with it. You know, so but like I said, I did what I had to do, and I took care of my parents, and I have no regrets or anything that I did.
Okay. What would you say to someone going through that situation or approaching that situation, having to take care of their parent, having to make the decisions for someone who used to make the decisions for them and raise them? What would you say to them to encourage them?
Whoa. You got to get over your feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and you just got to step up to the plate and do what you got to do.
Mm.
You just have to do it. When they took care of us. When we were born, they didn't know what to do with kids, with babies.
True.
You know, you have a baby, you don't know what to do. You come home with a baby, and it's like, oh, okay, now what?
Right. Exactly.
You know, and it's the same thing. You just got to do what you got to do. You try your instincts. Let your instincts kick in and take care of your parent. Just do what you got to do.
Right.
You know, and don't try to overtake them. You know, because they are still grown people that, you know, and they still want to do things and be themselves. It's just hard for them too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard for them too, because they, like I said, she said, I see myself going. She saw herself going. And I know that had to be hard for her to say that,
Right.
you know. But no, you gotta step up to the plate and do what you gotta do. I mean, I know it's hard I had it pretty easy not having to work.
Okay. Right.
But somebody with a 9 to 5, I said, Lord Jesus, if I had a 9 to 5, how in the world would I have done this?
Right.
I don't know how. I don't know. I might have had to quit my job. I don't know.
Right.
You know, or I might have had to get some sort of service in.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Yeah. It worked out. Yeah.
Mhm.
So let me ask you one last question. If you had one more day where anything was sky's the limit, anything you wanted to do, even things that you can't really do, but what would you wish to do with your mom and or with your dad, either separately or together? What would that look like? Tell me what that day would look like, even if it's separate days or it's together, however you want.
My dad, I think I probably would just sit down with my dad and talk a little bit more about the house. And how because he was he was a jack of all trades. He used to do everything, you know, he fixed everything up in the house. I would ask him a lot of stuff about the house. You know, how was this done? How did you do this? Who did this? You know, um, I think I would have sat down and just talked to him a little bit more.
Okay.
My mom, my husband and I just came back off a cruise in Europe. And I remember saying to myself, man, I wish I could have brought my mother over here to see how the other side of the world is. I think that's something I would do.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to do that with her.
No.
I kind of got the cooking down pat, you know, watching her with stuff like that. you know, or I could figure it out myself. But I think I would have taken her to Europe.
Oh, okay.
She loved to travel.
What do you miss the most about her?
She was just sweet. My mother was so sweet. Her cooking. Mom used to cook them Sunday dinners. So some of us at the church
Mhm.
were able to come to the house and experience the Sunday dinners. 'Cause she cooked so much.
Uh-huh.
But I miss that. I miss her cooking.
Awesome.
I miss her cooking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but she was really sweet,
Mhm.
She
Yeah.
was a big encourager for me,
Mm.
um, especially, when I was singing at different places, my mother would sit there with her chest all stuck out. I know how she feels now, how she felt.
Right.
But yeah, I just miss her. Mother's Day just passed, and
Mm.
it was kind of hard this year for some reason. Just this Mother's Day just has not been the same,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I miss that lady.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I know it was personal, but thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure it will encourage someone else and somebody else that might go through it, because everybody is different, and people take different information and different tips from people. So I really appreciate you coming in openly, sharing your story very comfortably. I really appreciate that. So thank
You're
you.
welcome. I hope I did a good job.
Oh, it's wonderful. I enjoyed this. All right. Thank you. Take care.
You're welcome. Bye bye.